Welcome to your Farm and Home Show. My name is Joanna, and this morning we're visiting with Jason Phillips, Simpson County Extension Agent for Agriculture and Natural Resources. Well, Jason, we're going to talk about a little critter today that causes a lot of problems for homeowners.
Right, yeah. I get a lot of phone calls about moles, and as I'm sure the Warren County office does as well. And they're a problem, of course, throughout the state, whether you live in town or whether you live in the county. They're really vigorous feeders and can cause a lot of problems in your lawn. They're a year-round pest. They typically feed a little bit more vigorously in the warmer months, but they're also a pest in the winter months as well.
Absolutely. And if you've had them before, you know they cause the tunneling, the soft ground. And what other problems do they cause?
Well, of course, it causes real uneven walking, so it can be a trip hazard, or I've turned my ankle before in a mole run. But also, it's damaging to your lawn. A lot of people spend a lot of time and a lot of energy working on their lawn, trying to have nice sod, and those moles come through and totally destroy it. So, they're just a problem all the way around, very much of a nuisance, and if you've got a lawn, you have dealt with mole problems.
Absolutely. Now, there are all kinds of remedies, right? If you get on the internet or social media, but what does the university recommend?
One thing that's worked really well are the fake worms, the pseudo worms, and there's a certain way to go about putting those out. But they work really well. Also, trapping can be effective. But we've had just really, really good success with the worms.
Now, Jason, the tunnels, the way they travel, you kind of have to know the pattern to be able to either use the trap or the worms, right?
So some tunnels are active tunnels that they use as main thoroughfares. And then some are tunnels that they'll never use again. So there's a method in order to establish which tunnels are active and which are not. Well, basically, you go out when the ground is soft, maybe after a rain or a heavy dew has fallen. You push those tunnels down. And one key is that you need to mark where you've pushed down, whether it's with a survey flag or just a little bit of paint on the grass. But you need to mark that so you can return to that same spot about a day or two later. And where that ground is raised back up, that's an active tunnel. So okay, that's a prime spot to bait. So let's talk about the worms first. So you would actually take that worm, you'd wear gloves and place that worm down in the hole. Actually, you can usually get away with a half a worm. Typically, I think the worms come to about 20 a pack.
Okay. And is there a depth that you put them in, or just make sure they're in the ground?
You just poke a hole in the soil till you feel the void where the tunnel is. You got to make sure that you're getting that worm in the tunnel. And then as they come through that main thoroughfare, through that tunnel, they will, ingest the worm.
And Jason, usually if we feel like we might have caught one, the worms, I guess that's the tricky part, because we don't know if they...
That's the tricky part. So with a trap, you've caught one. But the traps, there's difficulties there in setting the traps. You got to monitor the traps, so a lot of people don't like to fool with those traps, but the good thing about them is when you've been successful. But most people with the worms, they can see, obviously. Okay, one thing we need to point out is moles are really vigorous feeders, but normally you only got 3 to 4 moles per acre. Yeah. So it's not as many as you actually think. So if you're eradicating some of those moles, then you're going to notice many less tunnels. It's really, even though you don't have that accountability factor with those worms, you'll quickly notice that, hey, I'm seeing less tunnels.
Because I was going to ask, is it a one and done kind of thing, or do they reemerge in the next season?
Typically, you'll continue to monitor, but as long as you're not seeing new tunnels, then I would not additionally bait or trap. And if we're continuing to see new tunnels, we're continuing to be proactive and address those issues.
All right. Well, Jason, certainly appreciate the information. And if you have questions about mole control, contact your local extension office. Thanks for watching and have a great day.